Hello again, everybody. This is Derek, aka Mr. Everything, and I am coming back at you with another Wargaming and Miniature video. In today's video, we're going to continue on with my Ancients project updates. I've been working a little bit upon my Romans, and I just wanted to show you the progress that I've made so far. This last week, I was able to finish a number of Romans, and what we're going to do is we're going to show them off here today. This first group is the 3 Roman generals that I worked on. Now you'll notice that I'm basing all my figures for a game called Meg, Mortem et Gloriam, and it calls for the generals to be on 40 millimeter bases, either square or round. Now, I think it's smart for a player to put their command, their generals, their non-combatant type figures on round bases. Like in Hail Caesar, I'll put generals on a round base, or Black Powder, or even Meg. I'll put my generals on a round basis, where I'll put my combatants on the appropriate rectangular or square bases. That basically lets you as a player, when you're looking down at the table, you can say, oh, okay, we've got separate command, like these guys are command. Now you'll notice that on a 40 millimeter base, you're not going to get many other figures on these bases. I probably could put 2 generals side by side. That wouldn't be too cluttered. I might be able to put someone on foot with one of these guys, maybe a couple of foot soldiers, possibly. And then on a square base, it would be a lot easier because you'd have more real estate. But the rules as written for Meg state that your command figure, your overall general of your army, should have 5 miniatures on the base. I don't see how that's possible. There's no way it's possible unless I put 5 individuals on there with maybe a standard bearer and a guy on foot or whatever. That's possible. But I like my commanders to be mounted. And then the subordinate commanders are supposed to have 2, 3, or 4 figures based on their skill quality. Now, they have an alternative way to track your quality, and that's by color coding the edge of the base, making it yellow or red or green or what have you to denote what quality it is. Well, I don't like doing any of that. What we could do is I could put like a little mark on the back, or I could put something on the bottom saying what kind of quality the general is. But I think it's best just to leave it blank and then announce what it is at the time of the game. Like just because I'm not going to be playing very many scenario style, or I'm sorry, point driven games against an opponent. It's 99% of the time going to be scenario driven, and in one scenario this general might be superior, and then in the next time we play, this general might be inferior. So if that's the case, I don't want to have it permanently marked on his base, and I don't want to have... So I left them blank, basically, because then I can just announce it. And if I have to, I could go the old Napoleon's Battles route and put like a little piece of paper taped to the bottom of it, letting you know that he's superior or not superior or whatever. All right, now I was able to do 2 Roman heavy cav units, and you'll notice the way I'm denoting these two units as separately is the red capes and the gray capes. That's how I'm able, and plus these guys have white crests and they have red crests. But other than that, they're pretty much exactly the same. There's Old Glory, almost all these figures. Yes, every one of the figures I'm going to be showing you today is Old Glory 15s. They come in a variety of poses. Horses come in a variety of poses. There you have it. I could have painted like everyone here with a blue shield and everyone here with a red shield, but that would not have been accurate because the cavalrymen were considered to be almost like the predecessor to the modern knights, in that they fought as a unit, but they were still individuals, and so they had their own personal colors or personal. That's how everyone in their own unit could tell them who they were or what have you. So my understanding is they mixed and matched. They weren't always exactly the same in the unit. But we did do the gray capes and the red capes to identify which battle group they're in. And there is, because these are considered heavy, they have three figures per base. They're not extra heavy, which would be like a cataphract, which would have 4 figures per base. And they're not skirmishers or lights, which would have 2 figures per base. And these, almost all of my battle groups are 4 base battle groups, because I'm shooting for the mid-range armies. I'm doing a Magna and not a Pacto or not a Maximus. And here you go. We've got a couple of different battle groups of Principes and Hastati. The way the units are organized in Meg and in Field of Glory is that a unit like this, a battle group, or what they call a tug, should be a mixture of Principes and Hastati. Now, if you were playing Hail Caesar, then the Principes and the Hastatis would be in their own units because they had a slightly separate stats. But at this scale, at the Field of Glory or Meg scale, this is considered one unit. You'll notice the Principes, I put them on the right. They're the ones with the chainmail, and the Hastati are the ones with the bronze metal breastplate. Now, you have different styles of standard bearers. You got different poses for the officer, or I guess the centurion. And then we have the musician in the second rank. Now, if I ever decided that I was going to play Hail Caesar, I could always just pull the Hastati off and form them up, and then form the Principes up, and I could do something like that. Or we could just say that they were Hastati and Principes. And here are 2 more units of Hastati and Principes. Again, Principes on the right, Hastati on the left. You can see these guys are in the red tunics, and these guys white tunics, red plumes, white plumes, kind of reversed a little bit. The shields on all of these units are little big men decals. So so you've got the little big men decals right there and right there, and what you see on there. So basically I put everybody in this, every unit has their own unique decal. All right, these are the Triari. In Field of Glory, the unit size is 2 bases, and in Meg, the unit size is 4 bases. So what I did was I went ahead and did red tunics and white tunics, just so that if I ever needed to split them up and have them as 2 separate Triari units, I could. But I also did paint, or I should say decal their shields to be all exactly the same, and plumed them all to be the same, so these guys could form up together in Meg as a Triari unit of 4 bases. Meg, the Triari in Meg can be done 2 different ways. You can take a Hastati Principe unit, and then you can add a 5th stand to the unit as a Triari, and then you would have a 5 base unit, which I think kind of looks, it doesn't look right to me on the table. And then, or you can, which the ratio comes out to 1 Triari for every 4 Principe / Hastati. So it's a 1-to-4 ratio, which is the same in almost every game that I've seen. And with the 4 Principes, 4 Hastati, with the 4 units having 1 unit of Triari, works out to the same math. You'll also notice that I'm mounting my heavy infantry 4 figures across, which is accurate in Meg, right? And these are all 40 millimeter frontage bases, which is what is recommended for Meg and Field of Glory, WRG basing. But in Meg, all infantry is supposed to be mounted on 20 millimeter depth. I've discarded that rule, and I've gone to the Field of Glory / WRG basing method of 15 millimeter depth for the bases. Now, will that throw the game off at all? Absolutely not. It doesn't affect anything in the game at all. It's just a basing method. Meg allows for any basing method as long as everybody follows the same basing method. Okay, and these are the skirmishers, or the SUGs for velites, javelin men, I've got them in red tunics over here and white tunics over there. If you notice a theme, let me know. They've also got a mix and match of shields. That's kind of a randomized, colorization of their shields. There should be 1 figure on every base that's got the wolf pelt, and then 1 figure on every base that just has the tunic. So basically it was just a mix and match. These are 20 millimeter depth, 40 millimeter width. It kind of lends toward the fact that these are in a very loose formation, right? So a 2-figure base is a skirmisher. All right, now these guys are my Italians. These are actually Apulian. Apulians were in the southeast Italy. Okay, first of all, let's just point this out. These guys have a darker blue tunic. These guys have a lighter blue tunic. And then, of course, the green tunics out here. Well, these Apulians came with my mid-Republican starter army, and in Field of Glory, these Italians can be used, but in Meg, well, they could also be used, but they would be based differently. But when I found out that they were actually Apulian miniatures, I decided to base them as Apulian, and then because I'm basing them as Apulian, they cannot be used as an Italian ally for my mid-Republican Romans. It's a little bit of I was never planning on using Apulians, but because they came with the starter army, I just went ahead and put them together and painted them. I think they're a nice addition to my collection. Okay, Apulians. It's very strange. The Apulians, their main combat force are called javelin men, right? Because they all carry javelins. And then they've got the veteran unit, which is called the chosen men or something like that. But they also have skirmishers, which are also javelin men. They all have this large bronze shield and nothing else, no armor or anything, just javelins. So what I did was using blue as their primary infantry color, I decided to do a tint or a variation of the blue on each unit. So it's still kind of hard to tell which unit's which, but with a little close inspection, you can figure it out. And then the green, if you'll notice, these are 2-figure bases. These are going to be your skirmishers. Now these guys have 3 figures per base, making them what's called a loose unit or a medium infantry loose, as opposed to a 4-figure base on a 15. These guys are 3 figures on a 20. Now, the Apulians don't have units that are mixed. And so, because of that, I decided to base them directly like Apulians. There are other Italians that are able to be based mixed, and the Italian allies for the mid-Republican Romans are supposed to be mixed. So I decided that I'm going to get some other Italians. So maybe not the Etruscans, but maybe a Samnite or something, some other Italian. They actually have Italian auxiliaries that I think I'm going to get. That's actually the ones I think I'm going to get for their Italian allies. No, there's no rush on that because the scenarios that I'm planning on playing initially are going to have Gaelic cavalry as their allies. So, and maybe some Numidians. So we'll figure out what I'm going to get. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do next. But as an explanation of what a mixed unit is supposed to look like, they're all supposed to be based on 20 millimeter depth bases, okay? But instead of 3 figures, you would have a 4-figure frontage like that. So you'd have 4-figure bases and 3-figure bases in the same unit. And then depending on how the player wants to deploy them, they, like if they're out in the open getting ready to fight or whatever, you would have these guys in front. But if you're like moving through the woods or something like that, you might decide to put your loose formation in the front, and that tells the player, instead of using a marker to put on there like loose formation, close formation, or whatever. By deploying it like this, that lets everyone know that this unit is now in loose formation. I think that's an excellent way to do it. Meg just surprises me every day. But but the Apulians don't fight mixed. All right, and here is everything I painted this last week in all of its glory. We've got the 4 units up here, plus the Triari, the 2 cavalry units, the 2 velites, the 1 javelinman skirmishers, and the 2 Italian javelinman units right there, and of course the 3 generals. All right, I hope you enjoyed this update. As I get more miniatures finished, I will let you know what my progress is, and I will catch you in the next video.